Hello and welcome back to my workshop, and in this video I want to talk to you about liners because that's something I have kind of specialized in, and for that I have accumulated a lot of original parts which I will show you today so you know what to look for and what the details are. So I guess the best way to start is to go with the initial M31 liner there was, which is this. So this is the earliest known marking you can find on these. They were patented by the Schubert-Werke in 1929, but the earliest dated ones are dated 1931, which is also when they got the patent and when they were adopted for use in the Reichswehr. So you can see on this one, I hope the camera will pick it up, but this one is dated 1931, marked Schubert-Werke AG Braunschweig, and this is what the leather looks like. Now these early liners, and up until the end of the war as well, were made of, or the leather was goat leather or sheep leather, and around about 1 millimeter thick. It had a felt strip, such as this one. This is an original felt strip made of wool felt that is sewn to the leather. The leather itself is a stamped piece that looks, when it isn't used yet, wait, let me get one made of the leather I'm talking about. Yeah, it looks like this. So it's got these tongs and 5 ventilation holes and a hole here for a drawstring. Excuse my dirty hands, I've been cleaning some helmets, so that's why they look like this. But yeah, that's kind of the basics. And they are attached to an inner ring with leaf springs, and these look like that. But yeah, these look roundabout like this. This is an original ring, but a later type. So these early ones were made out of a sheet of aluminium, silicone, manganese, I think, sort of alloy, and that's why they usually are a bit out of shape, because they aren't that springy, just a little. And another thing you can look for on these very early liners is this marking. This is an embossed size stamp, which you only see up until and including 1935 and 36 liners. So this is very rare to see, so to say. But these very early liners had issues. First of all, they pretty quickly enlarged these stamped holes for the split pins because they are fairly small. They ended up at a size like this, and that stayed the same throughout the war. But there's already 1931 dated liners that look that way. So this is another 1931 liner. As you can see, this one already has the DRP marking for Deutsches Reichspatent. It's unfortunately broken, which is also another thing that these early single band aluminium liners, as they are called by collectors, are known for. These bands like to break because there's pressure from the chin strap. You can see how this has already worn almost completely through the material. See how much play there is. It's not that sturdy, and the troops obviously complained about that. So yeah, a solution had to be found, and that was found in 1937 by the company Werner Zahn. And they pretty much did something very simple, and that is just rivet on another sheet of aluminium here, and that improved the rigidity of these enough. Let me show you another example of a 1931 liner band that is in bad condition, because yeah, you can see it broke right here, and yeah, this retaining part here is also broken. Another thing these early liners had, not all of them were made out of this, the inner rings were made out of this aluminium. Some were made of spring steel but uncoated, and they rusted really quickly. And the leaf springs on these are also not coated with any paint or a very thin coat, so they also rust pretty badly. But yeah, in 1937 Werner Zahn came up with this, and starting in 1938 all the other manufacturers, of which there were a few, started making liners with this reinforcement. This one is a 1940 dated one made by Werner Zahn in very shiny condition. So that's the basics pretty much. The manufacturer stamps, especially for Schubert, changed a lot. So you saw this linear one, but in 1939 they changed to this type, but that's kind of already the more advanced knowledge. And also coming around with 1935, when the M35 helmet was introduced, the liners that were destined for World War I helmets, so M16, M18s, stuff like that, were the replacement liners were supposed to be marked Alter Art or old model, such as this one, which is also very rare, and everything else for the M35 helmets was supposed to be marked Neuer Art, NA, as you can see right here. And that's also the marking you'll always see on these liners. The Alter Art marking is very uncommon. Well, I just found this one by random pretty much. So that's all nice and dandy, and yeah, these aluminium liners were made up to and including 1943, actually. Some people don't know this, but you can see this is a 1943 Werner Zahn one, but only Werner Zahn made them later than 1940, because in 1939, 1940, obviously the Second World War started, or was started by Germany, and that meant a lot of aluminium was needed for aircraft production, so the army tried to see where they could simplify things so they didn't need as much aluminium, and these liners, because they are very light and nice, were one way to go about it. So starting in 1940, the liner bands and also the inner rings started to be made out of steel, zinc-plated steel that is, and because they are a lot more rigid now, they didn't need the reinforcement anymore, so these are just a single band. But yeah, you can see this is a 1940 dated Schubert one, and yeah, that's pretty much the basics. Also, what started appearing in 1940 was they also used different leather then, and that leather is pig leather, as you can see right here. This is an unused late war liner piece, but it was the same starting in 1940, and they also still kept the painted leaf springs. That's going to be a change, well, the next change that will be interesting to see, and that happened in 1943, which is when they started to not coat these in scratch-proof paint anymore, but instead have zinc-plated leaf springs. As you can see right here, this liner band is pretty interesting. It came out of a 1944, not the liner band, but this inner ring is interesting because it came from a helmet with a 1944 dated liner band, and it still has one leaf string with paint coating on it, and the others are all made of galvanized spring steel. There we go. And also one way to distinguish good original inner rings is a size stamping here. Pretty much all the reproductions do not have this, so you can always check out that, especially because the size marking is often quite different. And I also want to show you some markings on leather, such as these, since we are now pretty much done with the basics, you know, the 3 types of liners and the different inner rings, and yeah, another thing I can show you is the little aluminium pins. You can see them right here. They also started appearing out of zinc-plated steel on later helmets. I think on this one they are they? Well, hard to say. They look very similar, so it's always kind of difficult to make out. But yeah, so all this leather is unused late war, so to say, NOS stuff, which is very interesting. And it's got different markings on it, and well, that way we can trace maybe some makers as well. So that also brings me to another point I don't want to forget mentioning, is that there is different shapes of the leather. So you can see this is kind of oval-ish shaped, and sometimes these middle holes are a bit out of place. That's typical for pre-war leather pieces, especially made by Schubert. Then there's also this shape of leather. You can see the hole here is a little more in the center, and the arrangement is a little bit different. And then there is also, this is what I call kind of the Biedermann und Scharnikow type, but this one, for example, is a Schubert liner, so it isn't really applicable, but you usually see this shape with Biedermann und Scharnikow liners. And this is more the contemporary Schubert shape of leather throughout the war. This is a 1940 dated liner. And then there's also another different one, which I've seen quite often with F.W. Müller marked liners, such as this one as well, is similar to the Biedermann und Scharnikow one, but the middle hole is kind of further down. Yeah, it's just small details, but when you know, you will notice them. And regarding markings, this is one of the most common one, B59. This is for a size 57 or 58 liner. The 59 is the length of this leather piece in centimeters, and people always get confused because they think, oh, if it's marked 59 here, it's going to be a 59 liner. No, that's just not true. So because the leather has to be sewn together here, you lose about 1 to 2 centimeters, leading to a smaller size. So for example, this is a size 59 liner, and the leather is marked 60 because it's 60 centimeters. So there's that. So B59 is a very common marking. Here you can see B60, and we also have a name, a year and a month. So this was made in January 1945, which is pretty interesting, especially since on this one, the keen-eyed of you may see it already. It was spliced together of different leather pieces, which is also a practice that started in 1940 because, well, you can still use this, and why scrap it? But in this case, it's so last-ditch that they found some pre-war liner pieces, such as this strip here, and glued it together with the more contemporary shape. As you can see here, it is very different and very interesting. Right, here's another 1945 dated one, G61 N45. I don't know what the N stands for. This one's marked the same way. Then we have another very common marking for liners, is the BO dot. I don't know what it stands for exactly. Then the size and month and year. So this is from July 1944. And this is also very nice because you can see this marking here. And this is a stamp from the tannery it comes from. So back in those days, the city of Worms, which is named here, was known for leather making, and it's marked Heinrich Liebenau, Worms am Rhein. So there's the H, Heinrich, it's shortened, then Liebenau, and then it says Worms here, and A and a slash RH for am Rhein, at the Rhine. This one's marked the same way, but this one's interesting because it is made out of 4 different pieces of leather. Yeah, very late war. Here we have some more BO marked ones. These are December 1944, made out of 1 piece of goat leather, which is also something that people get wrong. They think, oh, it's late war, it can't be goat leather anymore because it has to be pig leather. That's completely wrong. They didn't just stop using goat leather because it was late in the war. They still had goats and sheep. Yeah, here's some more BO 59s. This one also has a very nice and clear marking. See here. You can also see they use different ink colors depending on what manufacturer it is. See, this is more bluish, this is almost turning green. Again, more blue. Yeah, another 1945 leather piece. I always find these very fascinating because they are just so late and last ditch. So there's that. Also something regarding the size markings on these liners. So now I want to get to the different manufacturer markings. The very early Schubert liners only had the shell size marked here, but very quickly they also started to stamp the actual liner size in there. So let me show you the other 1931 liners I have. See, this one is also stamped 68 because it's a size 68 liner, and this one is 62, and the other I just showed you is a 64. And yeah, after that they most of the makers took over this type of marking. So regarding the makers, obviously Schubert, the ones that invented this liner, made these. Then there was Biedermann and Scharnikow. They started in 1937. Metallwarenfabrik F.W. Müller in Berlin. Biedermann and Scharnikow was also in Berlin, and in 1942 they also opened a factory in the Watch Ghetto in Poland using Jewish forced labor, which, yeah, you should always keep in mind when handling these items, that is indeed what happened. Let's see, now this is a Berlin one. Don't I think I have one right here, but yeah, that's that. They went back to Berlin in 1943 and then made those liners there. Here's also the marking for the Metallwarenfabrik F.W. Müller. This is a 1942 liner. Then, as you've already seen, there is Werner Zahn from Berlin-Charlottenburg. There's also one maker that only made liners from 1936 to 1937. That's the Berliner Kofferfabrik-Inhaber Max Denso. Those are pretty rare, and I don't have one here right now to show you, unfortunately. Yes, you can see here, this is a Reichsbetriebsnummer marked one from B&C Berlin. And this is, so I should also say about Reichsbetriebsnummern, to conceal the location of factories, they started to use the Reichsbetriebsnummer marking instead of the name of the manufacturer in 1943, such as on the one you just saw. Oh no, I did. It is. I'm just stupid. Or on this one, this is from Metallwarenfabrik FWM or F.W. Müller. Again, this is a 1940 Schubert liner, so it still shows the name. Schubert also went to a Reichsbetriebsnummer later in the war. This also. But yeah, you'll also see still the normal maker marking in 1943 on some liners, such as this one. And now I want to show you some other markings on the leather on the inside. I don't know if this one has one, but something you can always pay attention to is the size marking right here. It's an ink stamp. It's usually on this or this part of the liner, and it's different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So the two I just showed you are Schubert liners. This one unfortunately has been redrawn, but it's the Müller. Here is one from Biedermann and Scharnikow, as you can see, and this one's a little different. So this is again from F.W. Müller. You can see they used a slightly different font. I've also got one I can show you, which is from Werner Zahn. This is a post-war cut-up liner piece used by the Czechoslovak Civil Defense, but this leather piece still retains the marking 59 from a Werner Zahn liner. So these non-circled stamps like this one are usually Werner Zahn. Also some early Biedermann and Scharnikow liners have non-circled stamps, but I don't have an example of this one here. And this also brings me kind of to the post-war use for liners. So some like these were just used post-war in helmets that were used by fire departments. That's why this one still has some black paint on it, or by Czechoslovak Civil Defense. Like this one, they often then still used original liner bands in here. There was one in here, they just put them like push, and there you go. So there's that, but also unused leather pieces were reused for civic style liners, so to say, for fire departments. Like this one. This one is definitely a fire department liner because it has these leather flaps here for a neck guard. It has this dome pad, so if something falls on your head, it doesn't hurt as much. Well, that's the idea anyway. On this one we also have a different marking, which is interesting to see. So this is a marked 59 N44. Yes, so it's a 1944 leather piece made of pig leather. Regarding that, you can always spot pig leather pretty easily because goat leather is fairly smooth. Take a look at this texture, and pig leather has a very distinct texture, so you can see it right here. It's always got these hair follicles that are like in sets of 3. This is made of split pig leather, that's why it doesn't look as smooth or shiny, because it's a lower region of the skin. It's lesser quality, but works still for liners. Let me show you another piece of pig leather so you know what to look for. Yeah. This one is a good example. So you can see pretty well what the texture of pig leather looks like. I might do another video diving a little deeper into helmet liners, as in the exact components and stuff, but that depends on if you are interested in this. But for now, this I think does it. Or wait, I've got some more markings to show you, such as this Reichsbetriebsnummer marking in a Biedermann und Scharnikow liner. This Reichsbetriebsnummer is RBNR 0/1305. The rest I can't really see. So this leather piece was made in Litzmannstadt, and yeah, by forced labor, in this case in July of 1943. I think this one was unmarked. Yes, but I do have some others that are marked, such as this Schubert liner, which is a bit stiff. This one is marked 1939, which is interesting. 58 and 38 or 39. And sometimes you can also see some random markings that I can't really explain, but like this one, this random 30. Maybe it's a badge denomination or something like that. No, this one does not appear to have any other markings. but I think you get the gist of it. So this is just a short little overview on what M31 liners look like and yeah, how to distinguish the different models. Well, speaking of that, before I leave you off to do something else, another thing these pre-war liners have is these rectangular chin strap bales, and starting in 1940, these are made of cast aluminium, and starting in 1940 they were made out of bent wire, such as this one you can see by these rounded corners. And usually they are made of zinc plated steel, but on these early liners they are sometimes made out of aluminium still, which is also something to pay attention to. So that's why this 1940 aluminium liner has these chin strap bales, because they were probably a little less expensive in manufacturing. So yeah, I think that does it for the M31 liner. And oh wait, another little addition is drawstrings. So these are made out of cotton and or cotton yarn. So that's also something you can pay attention to. Original drawstrings always look like these or this one. Post-war, a bunch of different stuff was used, such as these. So if you see a drawstring like this, it's usually not original. You can see in this post-war reused liner, it also has a drawstring like this, but these German-made ones are always fairly finely woven, even. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to show you regarding liners, of which I have a lot, so thought might just as well make a video. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something. If you actually watched through to the end of this, I'm proud of you, or scared. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.